Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're in luck because I have two very special guests. Well, a third one has also been added. That's, of course, Bafana Bafana coach Molefi Ntseki, and, of course, sitting here in studio with me, Timothy Batabaire and Thulaganyo Gaoshubelwe. All right, Timothy, before we continue with anything else, most football clubs in the country are ran professionally, so I'd like to believe every department in a football club also has a reservation for the wellness of players. But if players are meeting up with psychiatrists, if football clubs are putting money into those structures and measures, we're still not seeing fully just how the system is working to prevent death.
Look, death is one constant. At one time, too, we're going to all experience death, but how we experience it is a difference. Clubs are doing whatever they can do, but it's going to come back to the choice of the player, for the player to make a choice that he needs help, and then he can be helped in that aspect. Clubs, the Players' Union, they will come up with all these programs, but until that time when players make a choice to tap into that wisdom to make that shift and change, I think that's when we can start seeing those results. For example, if you go out and have some fun, take a drink, take a Uber home, you are safer in a Uber than you getting behind a wheel. That education passed on to the players, that's what is being passed on to every person in this society right now. It's Christmas time. If you're out partying, don't get behind the wheel when you're drunk. Get into a Uber and you'll be safely home. So in whatever way we're going to experience death, death is a constant, but how you experience death is what we want to discuss about now.
Fantastic. I love that answer, Timothy. Well, we're joined on the line now by the national team coach, Molefi Ntseki. A very good afternoon, Coach Ntseki. Thanks for joining us on the show. You play such a pivotal role as being the national team coach, and especially because you spend more than 95% of your time with the players on the field. What can you say about this very hard and tough discussion that we're having today, Coach?
Yeah, firstly, good afternoon, gentlemen, and thanks for having me. It's a sad moment for football. We have experienced this in the past years, but it looks very fresh. It looks very painful to all of us that are involved in football. Let alone the parents of these players who passed away tragically in a car accident. But I think as South Africans, we should also play a role in terms of how we help, how we bring up our players, how we bring up our children. Because at the end of the day, as parents, we are the ones who appears to be burying our children instead of our children burying us. And I think with the topic that we are discussing, we should be coming up with mechanisms that can be of help. Because when you are born, you grow within a family structure. There are things that you learn throughout your development stages. But the most important thing is when you get into school, we only learn about other subjects, but we don't learn about life as a whole. And the most important thing as footballers, I think we should have a program that addresses being a professional. How do you conduct yourself as a professional? How do you manage your life? Because what is important is how you manage your life. Managing your life is a very difficult one, because a decision that you have to make in the morning when you wake up, what type of shoes are going to put on, what type of shirt are going to wear. It's a decision that you make. And it is that decision that you will carry throughout that particular day. So this goes also to the players, because when you woke up in the morning, you need to be able to say, this is my life and this is how I'm going to manage my life. Let alone going into social moment where you enjoy yourself. But the most important thing is how you manage yourself when you wake up in the morning, what type of a diary you have about yourself. So for me, that is very, very important. If our players can learn to know how to manage themselves, I think we won't be talking much about incidents like this.
Coach Ntseki, thanks for that response. And in particular, do you feel responsible in any way of really adding value to the life of your players, especially the things that you have mentioned in terms of the family structure being the foundation of the life for players, and then they're making a personal decision on what they do with their lives? Because there must be, of course, a difference between willpower and what the person on the outside can do for the individual.
Look, I think we should start where everything started. When we start coaching, most of us started with junior teams, with junior players. And that is where life skills programs has to start. Because we only teach and coach them how to play the game, but we don't teach and coach them how to manage their finances, how to manage their social life. So I think that's where everything should start. When they start going into academies, when they start going into football centers, these are part of the things that we should also emphasize and teach them in terms of how do you become a professional. I will make an example of an English player because when you are 15, when you are 16, already you start to learn how to manage your finances. Because in our case, you have players breaking into the PSL, breaking into the first division, breaking into Bafana Bafana at a very late stage. And that also impacts negatively on them because they don't know how to manage their finances. They don't know how to invest their money. I think Batabaire said something very interesting to say, if you feel like going out, don't drive. Get an Uber to take you home, because an Uber driver will always be sober to get you home, and you will always arrive home safely. And the most important thing is what the country laws are saying about save lives, about arrive alive. That is very important. We need to emphasize all the time when you get into your car to say to yourself and to the co-driver, somebody who's driving the other car happens to be a co-driver, how do we make sure that we arrive alive? So that is very important for me. And that is why I'm saying it should start from the academy levels, it should start from the junior team levels until it gets to Bafana Bafana. Even at Bafana Bafana level, we should also have people coming in talking to our players because everything starts late with us.
Wow. All right. Coach Ntseki there just mentioning, of course, the importance of preserving your life, having good family structure. In Thulaganyo, the money aspect is coming up again, as we've just heard Coach Ntseki mention. And I feel if you're paid too much money, it's risky. If you paid too little money, it also adds pressure to the personal life of the football player because there's pressures from managing your family, there's pressures from earning a little bit of money. The average South African footballer, professional footballer, earns between 8 to 12,000 rand a week. So those things filter in that personal decision that they make on whether or not they're willing to go the distance or just leave it at that.
Look, I think there's nothing wrong with anybody earning a bit more, all right? Because we really need to survive. I mean, COVID has demonstrated that there's a problem here. But what are the solutions? You know, we are raising the issues of academies. You have academies that you need to begin to deal with that. But one thing that we know, Arthur, is that when a child is born, they'll go through the educational system. They go through primary, they go through secondary school, and end up, those who are fortunate, they go to tertiary. But what is it that we need to do? We must find a link between education as well as sport. You know, to say at the level, at the very young age, which has been raised by Timothy Batabaire, is that the school must be able to at least give a generic. We've had discussions with the Ministry of Sport on this issue, that players, for an example, they must introduce what we call finances at a very early age so that we can talk about those issues. They must understand the value of money, to say what is the value of money, what is it that you need to do. We must also talk about the issues of the contracts to say what is it that we need to do. So that by the time you go and you sign your own first contract, you are not like, wow, you know, by what you see. You sit down and you are able to deal with this matter. But in so saying, we are not saying players must not take a responsibility. Players ought to take their responsibility. One of the worrying factors that we've been addressing, and we address with them all the time as an organization, is that, guys, you see, it seems like there's a trend here. All these things, they happen in the early hours of the morning. How do we deal with that particular aspect? We need to address it. You must take a decision. Some decisions are very difficult to take, but we have a responsibility to take those decisions. But all of us as stakeholders, we must work towards achieving what we need to do. And we cannot just leave it and say, no, it's fine, it's a player thing and stuff and all that. The reality is, if we are to compare statistics, you see that thousands and thousands of people are dying on our roads, and enough is not being done in terms of addressing that particular matter.
All right. Wow, some strong words here from my panel of guests this afternoon, as we are obviously speaking about finding the roots and just very much the nitty-gritty that leads to these very tragic experiences as a people of football. We continue with the show as we wrap it up just after this. Thanks for watching eNCA and enjoy your afternoon with us.